I hate queuing. I hate queuing in any areas of my life, but I particularly hate queuing for food places. And what I'm finding now with a lot of new food places that open is that the only way you can get a table is walk-in only. So you can't book. And so imagine you're going somewhere, you don't know how busy it is, and it's all full, and it forces you to queue. You have to queue because it's like, you weren't able to book because they don't offer booking. And you see a long queue outside, and as a passerby, you go past this queue, you think, gosh, that place must be really good. Look at the queue. But in reality, it's because people are forced to queue because they cannot pre-book. What I will say, there are some places that do a hybrid approach. So there are some places where you can book a limited amount of tables and the rest are walk-in. I have no issue with that. But for me, it's the places where you can't book at all. I hate it. So let me talk about the places where I have had to queue. Well, one place in particular. There's a bakery in Covent Garden called Arome. It's a really nice bakery. I do recommend it. And when I went with my friend, she's like, oh, we need to get there a bit early because you need to queue and they sell out really quickly. And I was like, okay. So when we got there quite early and the queue was already like halfway down the street. I'm like, oh my God. I think we ended up queuing for like 20 minutes. And I'll be honest, the pastries that I bought there, especially their honey toast, really, really good. But it's just this whole queuing thing. I hate it. I will say though, obviously this was a Saturday, and when I'm doing all my cakey stuff, it tends to be at the weekend, where you probably more likely to have to queue than during the week. But still, the whole queuing thing is just, I'll give an example of a hybrid place that does walking and queuing. The Breakfast Club, another place I've been to, definitely recommend. When I went to the Breakfast Club, I went on a Saturday, and they have a limited amount of time slots at the weekend that you can book, but you have to be really quick, or otherwise they just go like that. And then if you don't get one, then obviously you're gonna have to get there at whatever time and queue. And when I've been in central London, because most of their branches are in central London, I've seen queues, various lengths of queues outside the Breakfast Club, and I'm just like, that could never be me. I think with the queuing thing, I suppose in the summer you probably wouldn't mind so much because it's like, it's nice weather, sunny. But in this kind of weather where it's freezing, who's queuing? Not me, definitely not me. A place that I have been to twice that you cannot book is Apple Butter Cafe in Seven Dials, which is not far. It's basically Covent Garden, it's not far from Covent Garden. And again, I recommend it, but you can't book. So the two times that I've been, it's been a Saturday, I literally get there when it opens. So it opens on a Saturday, opens at 9. I think it's 9 or 9:30, but whatever time it is, I will literally get there 1 minute after it opens. And surprisingly, I'm not the only one in there, so there are other people who think like me. But the reason I brought that up was recently, obviously Christmas time, I was in Covent Garden, and it was a period between Christmas and New Year, and I was going around Seven Dials, and then I saw this queue, and I'm like, where are people queuing? And I realised they're queuing for a calf. And I checked the time, and it's gone 9 o'clock. So obviously, I know a lot of places during that kind of Christmas and New Year period, they changed their opening times. And I was assuming they probably were going to open around 10:30, but the queue was just stretching all the way around. And I'm like, do you know what? That can never be me. It can never be me. Never be me queuing up. Like joining that queue, I probably have had to have waited at least an hour to eat, maybe more. That can never be me. No. I just want to briefly talk about two case studies in terms of queuing and things going viral. So if you're on TikTok, you might have come across Bingley Mega Chippy in 2000 and I think it's 22. where this everyday Chippy suddenly overnight had queues stretching forever. People were coming from all over the country to buy from here. There was a song, I think it was a song that kind of made them TikTok famous, and people were going there. There was queues all day, all night. It was crazy. So that lasted a good few months. Now there's no queue now. You know, that's the thing with like going viral. You're there, it's all there, and then after a few months it's like, who are you? But I just hope that they made any money that they made a lot of money, they saved it, because I was just seeing all these people queuing, because I think people queue and then people are like, oh, what's this all about? And people don't want to miss out. I think it's the missing out aspect, and that's why things go viral, isn't it, really? People don't want to miss out, so they're kind of like, okay, they kind of tag along. But I remember that was crazy. And recently in 2023 there's been a restaurant called Swiss Butter in Holborn, where again, this is a proper restaurant. You cannot book. You can't book. And what they serve is, I think it's either beef, chicken or salmon in like a fillet, and it comes with either chips or baked potato and salad. So it's a very simple menu, and I think there are a couple of desserts as well. And I remember seeing this all over my TikTok, and people were there queuing 1 hour, 2 hours. Oh, and what I forgot to say is the special thing about it is that they had this special butter sauce, which is supposed to be amazing. Yeah, so people were queuing for like hours to get into this place, and I'm like, I don't want to queue. I remember saying to my friend, I want to go, but I don't want to queue. The fact I can't book puts me off. But she actually went, and she said when she went, there was no queue. So again, I suppose it depends on what time you go. If you go during the week, it's probably quieter. If you go earlier in the day, maybe quieter. But the queues that I've seen for that place have been ridiculous. And what's quite interesting is that the reviews are very mixed. They're quite mixed. Though, I hate to say this, some of the influencers have raved about it, but then, you know, are what influencers say in their videos accurate? I mean, but that's going to be a subject for another video. So, yeah, it's just the fact that you have a whole big restaurant and you cannot book is, I can't fathom that. And I hope one day to go to this place, but if I go there and I see a queue stretching down the street, I'm not doing it. So my conclusion, yes, I hate queuing. I believe that restaurants should do a hybrid approach, especially for people like me who don't really like a lot of crowds and just want to go in and out. And yeah, I'm going to link to an article from The Guardian. I'm going to put it in the comments. It's from 2014, but I think it's quite relevant now. And it talks about the whole queuing thing. And there was a line that caught my eye, and it said, now it's all about the customers making the restaurant look good. And it does, because if you have a queue outside your restaurant, people are going to assume that your food place is really good. But that may not necessarily be the case. But anyway, let me know your thoughts about queuing. What do you think about having to queue for food, in terms of, I'm not talking about takeaway food, I'm talking about like you go in to sit down to eat, but you have to queue because you can't book. Let me know your thoughts. Until next time, Cake lovers.